Okay, one was off of the battery, off of the power last night, so Jeremy's checking to make sure it's plugged in and ready to go and you can get on it.
All right, thanks, really appreciate it. Big picture today, we have canceled OTC-2 burn. We are replacing it with some maneuvers and a checkout of the wastewater dump. So at 18:35, about 30 minutes from now, we're going to maneuver to an attitude that will put the sun onto that wastewater vent line. We have increased the heater temperatures on the nozzle and the lines themselves, and we're hoping that if the problem is the freezing of the vent lines, why we couldn't do the wastewater dump last night, then this will give us a chance to see if we were able to solve that. We'll have the cameras on it, and we'll be able to take pictures of that. Due to all of this that we've replanned overnight, your timeline's going to be a little bit in flux. We're working on pulling some things forward. Some things might have to move off of the morning because of this maneuver, so we'll come back with further details on that as we get to DPC.
We copy all. Thanks, Mike.
All right, good morning, Christina, and y'all have a great rest of y'all morning as well.
Thank you, and good morning.
This is Mission Control Houston. You just heard Capcom Mike Savinsky relay information we shared with you not too long ago. At a mission elapsed time of 2 days, 18 hours, we marked the start of Flight Day 4 activities. And the song you heard was Pink Pony Club by Chapel Roan to kick off the cruise day. Activities today are focusing on a manual piloting, detailed flight test objective, more space adaptation, and reviewing the lunar flyby plan, to name a few items from the busy day ahead. With the crew not having to conduct OTC-1 or outbound trajectory correction burn 1, as well as outbound trajectory correction burn 2, they are coasting on their way to the moon as we speak. Meanwhile, the Artemis mission control team here in Houston are continuing to monitor all systems, and the vehicle continues to perform well. Currently, the spacecraft is about 169,000 miles and counting away from Earth, and about 110,000 miles away from the moon. For now, this is Mission Control. This is Mission Control Houston in the Artemis Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center. We'll continue to follow along operations here in Mission Control. At a mission elapsed time of 2 days, 18 hours, and 13 minutes, the crew woke up about 13 minutes ago. I'm Nilofer Ramji, handing things over now to our Orbit 1 commentator, Leah Cheshire Mustachio, who will take you through the next few hours as we kick off Flight Day 4 of the Artemis 2 mission.
Houston integrity for docking camera.
Go ahead, Reed.
If it's possible, we'd like to deconfigure docking camera just to get our charging system back up.
Checking. Integrity Houston, for the docking camera, we want to just take a little bit of time to do a graceful shutdown of it. So give us a little bit and I'll come back to you when we're ready to pull it off.
No problem at all. Thank you, Mike.
Yep, and for further awareness, at about 1900, we're going to start commanding to do a PCA flush of the other 3 branches of the prop system. This will remove any potential condensation that's developed, but it also might give us a little bit of insight into the aux branch 1. So we'll give you all a heads up just before we kick that off at 1900 as well.
Okay, copy. Just give us a call before you start that flush. We'll listen out.
Perfect. We're on the same page. And then finally, we've got y'all are go to do any CCU dumps as needed.
Okay, copy that, Mike. Houston Integrity, we got just a couple questions. We could either do a private flight director conference for about 5 minutes, or we could send them across the open airways.
We will privatize Orion Earth 2. Give us 1 minute.
Sounds great.
Integrity Houston on 1. OE2 is not privatized. You can join us on that loop when you're ready. Integrity Houston on 1, OE2 is back to normal, and y'all have a go to undo the docking camera.
Copy that, Mike. Go for the docking camera.
This is Artemis Mission Control. Mission elapsed time, 2 days, 18 hours, 45 minutes into the flight of Artemis II, the first flight of humans aboard the Orion spacecraft. You're getting a live look outside Orion right now. The teams are maneuvering the spacecraft in the solar array wings. As you heard earlier, we are not having the outbound trajectory correction burn today. This was deemed unnecessary and has no impact to the mission or the lunar flyby. The translunar injection burn put the vehicle on the correct path back on flight day 2. And therefore, the team and Mission Control agreed that we could skip both outbound trajectory correction burn 1 as well as that second burn today. Skipping that second burn also allows the team to continue troubleshooting some of the universal waste management system issues that cropped up last night. There was a wastewater dump planned last night, a very routine and regularly scheduled action, and it terminated after only dumping 3%. So the wastewater tank is not currently full. It is at 64% with a limit of 80%, but the crew was instructed to use backup collection devices overnight if they needed. Part of the reason for reorienting the spacecraft today is to allow it to be in the sun, specifically where the primary vent nozzle is. They are hoping that spending some time in the sun will help thaw out potential ice that may be on that vent nozzle. Meanwhile, inside the Orion spacecraft, our crew just woke up to the sounds of Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan. That wake up coming at 11:35 a.m. Central Time. During that recent call down from the crew, we also heard them ask to privatize one of the communication lines in which they used to speak with everyone here on the ground. Obviously, we are sharing almost all of their communications, so it's not uncommon for the crew to ask for the opportunity to ask a couple of questions privately, and it sounds like their communications are back going out live.
Integrity Houston for window shade request.
Good to hear your voice, Jenny. Go ahead.
Hey, Jerry, nice to speak with you, too. We have a small request for you guys. With this attitude that we're using for the bake-out, we're getting the sun on the window shades, and we're a little worried about them heating up too much. We would like to request that you please remove the window shades. We understand that will make it awfully bright for you guys, and we want to encourage you to use a T-shirt in the cabin or something similar if needed to block out that sunlight. But the shades will help us with the temperature constraint on the windows.
Okay. So we have our makeshift T-shirt on window 1. Is that one okay to stay up then based on what you said? And we'll take off the window 2 shade. The other ones are already off.
Okay, yep.
That sounds great. Thanks, Jeff.
Houston, integrity on 1 for windows.
Can you do that or not?
Go ahead.
I can.
Okay, Jenny, just to sync you up on the state of the spacecraft, and there's a couple deltas from the procedure, so I want to let you know on the window shades. Window 1 has a black T-shirt with a Z9 in the window. We can pull the Z9 out. That might help you. Just let us know what temperature's there. Windows 2, 3, and 4 are now window cover free. The side hatch window cover has been removed. On the docking hatch, we would be inclined just to leave the docking camera installed today. We've powered it down and we've put the charger back on pub 1, but any issues leaving the docking camera in the docking hatch window?
We're check and read. Integrity, that is a good window config. You can leave the docking cam in place.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Appreciate it.
This is Artemis Mission Control. The crew aboard Orion, Artemis 2 crew, woke up at 11:35 a.m. Central Time today. They are still in their post-sleep period, so they're taking the time to configure the crew cabin, conduct any hygiene for the day. But immediately upon waking up, there is an extra step that they have to take to help us with some science that they both did while they were here on the ground and that they will continue to do once they have returned. This is to collect some saliva. The crew is instructed to do so before they have exercised or brushed their teeth. Let's learn a little bit more about why this is so important.
And Artemis 2 astronauts' saliva tell us. Saliva can tell us a lot about astronaut health. Just one tiny sample provides a window into what's happening into a crew member's body. When Artemis 2 flies around the moon, the crew will provide saliva samples for a study called immune biomarkers, which probes how the immune system reacts to deep space travel. This research builds on studies we've done before. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station collect liquid saliva samples with tiny oral swabs that roll around in their mouths. They also provide dry samples by blotting their saliva onto special paper that's carefully preserved at room temperature and brought back to Earth for analysis. Artemis missions won't have much onboard room for a refrigerator to store liquid samples. As a result, crew members will take dry samples periodically during their mission so that researchers can see how their immune system changes over time. NASA has been using saliva samples to help understand astronauts' health for decades. During the shuttle program, they discovered that dormant viruses in our bodies, including the one that causes shingles, can reawaken in space. Researchers are unsure why this happens, but think it has something to do with how the body responds to the extreme environment of space, including changes to circadian rhythms, stress, diet, radiation exposure, and weightlessness. By knowing more about how deep space travel affects the immune system, Artemis missions will help NASA ensure that humans, rather than viruses, thrive in space as we venture onward to the Red Planet and beyond.
Houston Integrity, are we still hands off PCD-1?
Checking.
So we're
Reed, you are go to use PCD-1. We're off of it now. Thank you.
Now that we have handed over to the Orbit 1 flight control team, the voice you're hearing at the Capcom console is that of Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jenny Gibbons. She is an Artemis II backup crew member and serving as today's Capcom, speaking directly with the crew and relaying information and instructions from here on Earth. This team is led by Flight Director Jeff Radigan. This live view from the Orion spacecraft coming from a camera mounted on the solar array wing, looking back at the spacecraft. The Mechanical and Power Officer, or MPO, just repositioned that solar array wing to allow the teams to see the vent that they are troubleshooting, that they have positioned this to be in the sun to help potentially release some ice on the primary vent nozzle that has brought up an issue with the wastewater dump that was scheduled last night. Again, we were targeting to have the outbound trajectory correction burn 2 today, but just like yesterday, the team determined it was not necessary, that we are on a good trajectory for the moon. And so by clearing that OTC-2 burn from the crew's schedule, they have allowed more time for the teams to continue troubleshooting and working on the systems for the Universal Waste Management System. Due to the cancellation of the outbound trajectory correction burn and the crew's timeline having a little more flexibility, their timeline is in flux right now. But they do have a daily planning conference coming up in a little over an hour when teams here on the ground will speak with them about the systems aboard the spacecraft, answer questions, relay any information about their schedule.
Huntsville, Integrity for Avatar.
And Integrity, Huntsville's with you.
Yes, good Integrity morning. I think it's the afternoon for you. Avatar lights to report. All lights are on, ON, except for 1515.
Okay, we copy. Same status as yesterday. All lights on, O1 except for 15.
You recently heard a call from NASA astronaut Christina Cook, mission specialist on the Artemis II flight, down to the Mission Control Center at Marshall. This was to the Payload Operations Director, who leads science execution for the Avatar payload, which is specifically what she was referencing. Avatar stands for a Virtual Astronaut Tissue Analog Response. This is part of our strategy to get a holistic understanding of how the deep space environment affects humans. So this is organ-on-a-chip technology. It's about the size of a USB thumb drive, and it measures how individual astronauts respond to deep space stressors. These organ chips contain cells that were developed from pre-flight blood donations from the crew. For this research is to validate whether those organ chips can serve as accurate tools for measuring and predicting human response to stressors. So scientists will be comparing these Avatar findings with space station findings, as well as with those samples taken from the crew before and after the flight. Avatar could inform measures to help ensure crew health on future deep space missions, which include personal medical kits potentially for each astronaut. But for us on Earth, it could also lead to advancements in individualized treatments for diseases like cancer. This is Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I am Leah Cheshire Mustachio, NASA Public Affairs Officer. We are 2 days, 19 hours, and 30 minutes mission elapsed time. That's the time since Orion lifted off atop the Space Launch System rocket from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. As we've been discussing today, the crew was preparing for the OTC-2 burn. That's Outbound Trajectory Correction 2. However, this burn was canceled, deemed unnecessary, following a successful translunar injection burn just a couple of days ago. Canceling that burn today also allowed time for the teams here on the ground and the crew members to orient the spacecraft so that it is facing the sun on one specific portion, which is a primary vent nozzle. Yesterday, at the beginning of crew sleep, the ground was performing a regularly scheduled wastewater dump. The dump terminated after only 3%, so the tank quantity was 64%, and the limit is 80%. So the wastewater tank is not full. However, the crew was instructed to use backup collection devices overnight if they needed. Part of their continued troubleshooting is canceling that OTC-2 burn and the team having added this attitude maneuver, pointing the waste vent lines to the sun. They'll be like this for about 2 hours to help melt any ice that may be preventing the waste dump. Of course, no impact to the mission or the lunar flyby scheduled on flight day 6. Those trajectory correction burns, including the one we canceled today. We also canceled one yesterday due to our trajectory already being in great condition. Those are just small burns to fine-tune the flight path. The crew was informed upon wake up at 11:35 a.m. Central today. They are still in their post-sleep time frame, conducting any cabin configuration and hygiene before they get started with their workday. Coming up in about an hour, we expect less than an hour, we expect the daily planning conference to occur. That's teams here on the ground calling up the day's activities and information to the crew. Scheduled for after that daily planning conference was going to be a photo opportunity from one of the solar array wings. That's where this view is coming from right now, looking at the cabin. We were intending for the crew to be visible within Orion and potentially even the Earth in the background, but due to this attitude maneuver to help bake out or melt some ice that we think is building up around that primary vent nozzle, that solar array wing selfie of the crew and the spacecraft will be rescheduled. With that solar array wing selfie being rescheduled, we will stand by for that time. The rest of the crew's schedule will be shifted a little bit today, making time for this bake out maneuver, and of course with the cancellation of that OTC burn. This is Artemis Mission Control here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Crew aboard Orion still in their post-sleep period, having woken up at 11:35 a.m. Central Time, 12:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, the outbound trajectory correction burn for today has been canceled, deemed not necessary due to a proper translunar injection burn on flight day 2. Cancellation of this burn also allowed for teams to reposition the spacecraft by changing its attitude and pointing a primary vent nozzle in the sun. They're suspecting potential ice buildup on this primary vent nozzle after an insufficient wastewater dump last night. So this is one of their steps for troubleshooting, hopefully allowing this bake out time, as it's being referred to melt some of that ice and then later perform a wastewater dump.
Integrity Houston for SAW PAO event.
Go.
Wanted to let you know we're planning to defer that PAO event until later in the day because of using the SAWs to monitor the outcome from this bakeout. We'll have more words for you when we know where it lands.
Yeah, we were fully expecting that, and no problem at all, Jenny.
Thanks, Reed.
That call from Capcom and Artemis II crew backup, Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jenny Gibbons here in Mission Control Houston, speaking with Commander Reed Wiseman aboard the Orion spacecraft, letting him know that a previously planned event, referred to as the SAW event, which stands for Solar Array Wing. That's where this view is coming from right now, a camera mounted on the Solar Array Wing looking back at the spacecraft. We were intending to take a photo of the crew in the windows and of Orion, but due to this change in attitude, we will be deferring that event, and they will reschedule it for a later time today. The crew's schedule does remain in flux today following cancellation of OTC-2. However, one item that we anticipate to still occur is the manual piloting demo. Now, if you recall, shortly after launch on flight day 1, pilot Victor Glover commanded the Orion spacecraft, manually flying it around the interim cryogenic propulsion stage and a faux docking target. This was all to help us learn how Orion flies manually in space and help us prepare for future missions, during which we'll need to dock to a lunar lander. Glover was the only astronaut to fly that day.
Crew, we see the enabled caution on the board. We are not moding to SAT mode, and no action for you. This is because of a caution and warning sync we're performing from the ground.
Okay, everything looked good on our display, so we were a little confused. Thanks, Jenny.
Teams referring to a caution that the crew received on their displays, letting them know there is no action received on their part and that this was a ground issue. Back to the manual piloting demo that will occur later today. Pilot Victor Glover was the only astronaut who got to fly the spacecraft on flight day 1 for those proximity operations. But today we are expecting all crew members to get an opportunity to pilot Orion. They'll be using the rotational and translational hand controllers to maneuver the vehicle with the RCS, or Reaction Control System, thrusters. This will help teams learn about the 6 degree of freedom and 3 degree of freedom attitude control. For anyone else looking forward to that manual piloting demo, we are expecting that to take place just after 8 p.m. Central Time. Of course, we did mention the schedule is in flux for the crew members today, so that may change if needed. Again, crew's still in their post-sleep period. We are expecting their daily planning conference in about 30 minutes. As we kick off flight day 4, the crew is still in their post-sleep period. Let's take a time to get reacquainted with our Artemis II crew. Reed Wiseman is the Artemis II commander and a Baltimore native. He's been in space before as a flight engineer for Expedition 41 on the space station from May through November 2014, a total 165-day mission. During that time, his crew set a milestone for station science by completing a record 82 research hours in a single week. Wiseman also served as chief of NASA's astronaut office from December 2020 to November 2022, and back on Earth, he has 2 daughters. Artemis II pilot is Victor Glover, selected as an astronaut in 2013 by the agency. At that time, he was serving as a legislative fellow in the U.S. Senate. His first trip to space was on NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission in November 2020, when he was also the pilot of that spacecraft. Victor is a U.S. Navy captain and naval aviator who served as a test pilot, racking up over 3,500 flight hours in more than 40 different spacecraft. And as previously mentioned, he became the first person to pilot the Orion spacecraft the other day. He and his wife have 4 children. Mission specialist Christina Cook is a native of Grand Rapids, Michigan. She was selected to the Astronaut Corps in 2013, the same class as her crewmate Victor Glover. She served as a flight engineer on the space station from March 2019 to February 2020, during which she set the record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman, with a total of 328 consecutive days in space. She also participated in the first ever all-female spacewalk with her crewmate Jessica Meir, who is back on the International Space Station as we speak. Before becoming an astronaut, Christina helped build space science instruments and led scientific field work in some of the most remote environments on the planet. She enjoys surfing, rock climbing, community service, yoga, travel, and photography. Rounding out our Artemis II crew is Jeremy Hansen, a Canadian Space Agency astronaut and first-time flyer. The London, Ontario native was selected as an astronaut in 2009, and since then he worked as a Capcom in our Mission Control Center here in Houston. Capcom stands for Capsule Communicator, and that's the single voice communicating with the astronauts in space. He has also participated in training exercises like a week-long stay on the ocean floor off the coast of Florida to simulate deep space exploration. In 2017, he became the first Canadian to lead a NASA astronaut class. He enjoys getting out on a sailboat, rock climbing, and mountain biking, and back on Earth. He and his wife have 3 children.
Integrity Houston, for that PCA flush, we are starting regulation now.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Everything has been quiet on board. We can tell no associated noises with the flushes.
Copy, thank you.
That call from Capcom Jenny Gibbons to the crew aboard Orion, as you see here on your screen, that they are performing a flush. We have been monitoring the primary vent nozzle. They reoriented the spacecraft to point it toward the sun, to point the primary vent nozzle toward the sun, I should clarify, and help potentially thaw some ice that they suspect may have built up and be interfering with the Universal Waste Management System. Crew reports everything is good on the spacecraft. We are now 2 days, 20 hours into the flight of Artemis II. On console here in Mission Control Houston is the Orbit 1 team. Flight Director Jeff Radigan gathering topics from the crew ahead of the crew's daily planning conference coming up here in just about 10 minutes. That daily planning conference actually targeted for about 20 minutes from now. Meanwhile, the Orion spacecraft is now over 173,000 miles away from Earth, growing closer to the moon, 106,000 miles away from our lunar neighbor. The spacecraft reached the halfway point between Earth and the moon last night. This is Artemis Mission Control, and you're looking at a live view of the Orion spacecraft on the Artemis II mission, the first flight of humans around the moon in over 50 years. The team here on the ground continues to evaluate the crew's timeline for today. One of the other timelined events today is the Lunar Targeting Package review with the crew. The science team here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, will be speaking with the crew aboard the Orion spacecraft and preparing them for lunar flyby day. Again, the crew will fly around the moon on flight day 6, and due to the illumination, we expect them to be able to see things that have never been seen before by human eyes. The science team has been preparing this lunar targeting package for this specific flyby, as each launch date would have resulted in different viewing opportunities due to lunar illumination. So the crew has been training for years based on photography of the lunar surface, as well as in different lighting conditions. And today will be the opportunity for the science team to discuss what they expect the crew to be able to see and the priorities for them to photograph during that flyby. Of course, our coverage will be live that day as we remain live 24/7 on NASA's YouTube. Thank you for tuning in.